Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about Luffy's haki, or more specifically, one of the types of haki that he has. Now, haki is a very powerful set of techniques that allow an ordinary human to fight on equal terms against opponents who possess devil fruits. And so far, 3 haki varieties have been introduced. But with Conquerors and Conqueror's coding being such a big focus of the more recent chapters, it seems that observation haki, or the color of observation, really seems to have fallen to the background once we had the whole Future Sight incident with Katakuri. But it may seem that this very form of haki possesses a great power in its enhanced form, a power in which Joy Boy or somebody in the past may have been able to obtain in the past, allowing them to see into the future. In today's video, we're going to talk about observation haki, what powers the user who reaches an advanced form could obtain, and how Joy Boy could have known future events with this very haki. But before we start looking into the future, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you consider leaving us a like or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content, and if you'd like to help us out in a bigger way, consider sharing the video with a friend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, Joy Boy was a very important man during the past, and it's not exactly known what his greatest achievements were, but we do know that all of this took place 800 years ago and was erased from history, including Joy Boy's existence. But before Joy Boy had his existence and story completely erased from the world, he managed to write it in the poneglyphs and make it so that it would endure for subsequent generations. So even if the world had erased his accomplishments and his name around the world, these stories would still be scattered in small fragments around the world, so that the more people could know his purpose and attract people back to his story, and even find out possibly where he hid his greatest wealth and treasure. Now, during Joy Boy's past, he had several goals in mind, but we know that he couldn't fulfill them because he'd already done something. And if he had done it, the world of One Piece would be very different today. Most likely, his goal would have involved the downfall of the leaders of the world government, or at least the kingdoms that then became the world government. But we know that somehow they were able to thwart this plan and keep him from achieving peace, because the world became what we see it is in the anime and the manga. The leaders that came together to form the world government claims to do good about people, but in reality we've seen that they don't, and they allow the celestial dragons to harm people and enslave them and kind of go about as they feel. They completely ignore all the evil acts that the celestial dragons do to people. And we just have to consider it's because they happen to be descendants of the kingdoms that formed the world government. And for this reasons, the organizations arise, such as the revolutionaries, who seek to also overthrow the world government as well as the celestial dragons. But let's get back to the main focus of the video. Joy Boy, even though he didn't fulfill his mission, somehow knew that in the future, someone else would need to fulfill it for him. And this could mean that it just wasn't something that Joy Boy felt, but perhaps he actually saw this event. Now, it's very likely that Joy Boy probably possessed the fruit of the sun god Nika. But as we know, this fruit doesn't just give the user the ability to see the future. So it has to be that Joy Boy was able to see the future in a way that already explains and works within the world of One Piece. It can't just be a benefit of his fruit. Now, as I said earlier, the first character that showed a certain ability to see the future was Katakuri, and he could see things that were just about to happen, and he was able to move and prevented himself from ever getting hit and prevented these strikes from landing. Initially, we didn't know really how Katakuri could see the future. Now, it also looked like at the time Katakuri possessed a Logia fruit, but it ended up being a paramecia, and it was just his haki that was keeping him from getting hit. It was only during his confrontation with Luffy where we found out what Katakuri's powers were, that he didn't possess some Logia fruit, but a paramecia fruit, and it was because an awakened fruit where he could mold his body in any way he wanted. But it wasn't just the ability to move his body that really gave him that advantage. It was the fact that although Luffy sent hundreds or thousands of punches at him, he could just move out of the way. And furthermore, Katakuri didn't just possess a special power that made him predict the future, but a specific technique that gave him the ability. So through observation haki, Katakuri could briefly predict the future. And again, Katakuri's observation haki wasn't described as advanced because he does have a very high level of haki. But perhaps this is not the full definition of advanced observation haki. So maybe there are even higher levels of advanced observation haki that we haven't even gotten into. Now, although we don't know about Big Mom, we did see fleeting moments in the fight between Luffy and Kaido in the recent chapters, where he seemed to also have that future sight technique. So it very well could be that there are even more advanced techniques, and we just haven't seen anyone powerful enough to demonstrate it. But first, let's take a moment to talk a little bit about observation haki, how it works, and possible secrets of this technique that we maybe haven't explored yet, but could possess a great power that will allow Joy Boy to see the future through this power. So observation haki, or the color of observation, is one of 3 types of haki, and it allows the user to feel the presence of other people, and apparently the user can feel the soul of the people around them. The concept of this technique hasn't been fully explained so far, but apparently the technique possesses this ability where the user is almost omnipresent and can seem to feel the energies or souls or essence of people around them. And it's not just in the radius around you. Even if the user can't see people close by, they can still feel them and know exactly where they are, becoming a great sensory technique, and even allow the user to see people very far away. So it's through the increase in the user's vision and senses that really bestows this small-scale omnipresent feeling. But it seems that the advantages may just stop there for the most basic of users. Any novice user of this technique has the ability to sense or at least have their vision increased by observation haki. But when the user manages to improve this technique, they can raise their awareness to a level never before imagined. This technique is also something that you can learn and not something that you're born with like conquerors. So usually you have to go through it, and we've only seen a few characters just naturally born with this technique without the need to train it. And that was Isa, who appeared in the Skypiea arc, and also Queen Otahime of the Fishman Island. It was through this technique that Isa was able to help the Straw Hats locate Enel, who is in a very distant location, demonstrating that with the proper use and ability, the technique can cover quite a large area. Speaking of Enel, he was one of the only characters that we've seen where he was able to pair his observation haki with his devil fruit, his Gorogoro no Mi, because Enel could pick up on the electromagnetic waves in the air, which allowed him to hear conversations and everything around him. And this union allowed Enel to become a being of omnipresence within Skypiea, and he could hear anything and everything that was happening. And this allowed him to stay ahead of the plans of the Straw Hats and any of his enemies. It's also been said by Rayleigh that observation haki was a technique so powerful that it allows the user to predict the future and pretty much anything in the universe, which may make the possibility that Joy Boy was the most skilled user of this technique even more real, because he possessed the advanced observation haki. It may be that Joy Boy was able to see future events in which someone else could inherit his determination, so he didn't regret in not finalizing his promises. He may have known that someone would be born who would be worthy to inherit his determination, and not only that this person would be able to obtain the power of the sun god Nika, just like him. Now, even though he saw the future, it might be that Joy Boy couldn't undo this future, so it might have meant that he had to do very specific things in order to ensure that this future would happen, and that could have been what made him accept the end of his life. After all, it was said by Joy Boy in a poneglyph that in the future he would have his return, and that was only said by some Sea Kings, and possibly who had already had contact with Joy Boy at some point in the past. And with that, this means that someone may have already told them about it. And though Joy Boy could see into the future, this didn't mean that he could avoid losing his life to an enemy during combat. So it might be that he had to accept this distant future so that his plans could be realized in the long term. So he accepted his fate, that Luffy, or whoever it was in the future, would be able to obtain the power of his fruit, in addition to his determination and will. It's even possible that we just haven't seen anybody to possess this level of mastery of a technique as Joy Boy had. But those who possess this considerably advanced technique would be able to predict an opponent's movements just before their enemies go, and this prediction is displayed to the user as an image in their mind. Now, this premonition isn't exactly detailed, but it does allow the user to see what could be happening, allowing them to attack their enemies much more effectively or to dodge their opponent's blows. With further training, the user can see a little bit further into the future, and has been proven to be very effective as a means of avoiding hits from those who use armament haki. Another benefit of this type of haki is that it allows the user to sense the emotion and nature of others around them. For example, Otahime used this haki to feel the sufferings and emotions in the heart of a fishman, as well as hear the cries coming from the heart of Fisher Tiger. It's not confirmed, but there's even a possibility that the user of this haki could sense the strength of their opponents, because this was demonstrated by Rayleigh when he used his haki to sense that there were 500 creatures in Rusakaina that were stronger than Luffy at the moment. This shows that observation haki techniques possess a great capacity, and maybe we just haven't seen the full story yet, because it could give the user greater advantages during a confrontation, just like the other two types of haki. So in the past, Joy Boy could have been one of the most powerful characters that lived in the Lost Century. And because he was able to perfect all three of his haki styles, it unlocked more and more advanced haki techniques. With this mastery, it possibly is that Joy Boy had a vision or a premonition, or just looked to the future. And once he saw what was coming, he was able to lay a plan so that no matter what happened in his present, in the future, his plan would ultimately be the one to win out. In the current idea, we don't even know if possibly Roger might have had this ability, or even Shanks, because we do know that Shanks is reported to be the greatest haki user possibly in the world right now. And it may be that Luffy could eventually achieve this advanced technique as well as Joy Boy, because both have the same determination and willpower. And it may be that tenacity and creativity of our favorite Rubber Boy that could allow him to achieve this advanced technique in the future. And this may be the thing that Luffy needs to get that advantage in combat, where he could see the future events and define the missions that he needs to accomplish with his allies, and be able to see even what the best way is for him to accomplish these tasks, just as Joy Boy may have foreseen the events that we are witnessing in the present. So although it may not be the armament or the ability to knock people out with your will, this, you have to admit, is an incredibly powerful and important technique that could really set the tone for the future of our story. But for now, what do you think about it? Do you think that Joy Boy may have used some kind of future sight or even something more advanced to write out all the poneglyphs? Do you think that Luffy, by opening up the Nika fruit or in some other way, do you think he would have it? Or what do you think about Shanks? Let us know in the comments below. So as we bring our video to a close today, I want to thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.